Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanuranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanuranjana Dana Brajajana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Simadis Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shira Prabhupada Ki Gora Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we're nearing the end of chapter 14, canto 10. Chapter 14 of canto 10, the first 40 verses, it's prayers of Brahma after stealing the calves and cowherd boys, and then seeing this magical thing that he saw, and then paying his obeisances before Krishna, offering prayers to Krishna. And when Krishna doesn't say anything after 40 verses of prayers, he understands that Krishna gave him consent because he asked, I'd like to go back to Brahmaloka and continue my service. So he returned. Krishna then went to where the calves were, same place they were 1 year before, a little bigger after 1 year. And he brought the calves to the cowherd boys who were sitting there with their same lunch. And they finished their lunch. And then they went back to their homes, went back to the town, the village of Braja. And when they were going back, they were doing what the cowherd boys would normally do, play and all those nice things. And they sang songs glorifying Krishna's pastimes, because that day, as far as Yogamaya had them sense, that day was the day that Krishna killed Aghasura, although it was 1 year later. And when they reached the village, specifically it speaks of the ladies, the mothers of the boys. So those of you that are mothers, think about the boys are coming back from herding the cows. They're 5 years old. Calves, not cows. And we're on. Okay. You fiddle and I'm gonna resume. Okay, we had a little internet connectivity problem, those of you online, and as far as I understand, we're back. So for this evening, we're going to reach what is a well-known verse, that it's nice to know in the context of this well-known verse that it's answering this question. Here's the well-known verse. Samasha chaye padapalavam plavam mahat padam punya yasho marare. You've heard that one, right? No? No, it's very celebrated. Prabhupada would repeat it. Bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam natesham. It's a celebrated verse. The translation of that verse, this is where we're ending. For those who have accepted the abode of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Like it's easy to cross over the water in a half hoof print. But if you're not in that boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, it's an ocean of material existence. Their goal, that's people who have taken shelter of Murari's lotus feet, is param padam. What's that? Vaikuntha. Param padam. The place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. Padam padam yad vipadam. Vipadam. Danger at every step. So that's where we're going. And to get there, there's two verses, verse 56 and 57, that come before 58. That's this Murari verse. So 56 is speaking of the non-difference of everything with Krishna. 57 is speaking the difference between Krishna and everything. It's double talk, right? It's the simultaneous oneness and difference. We're familiar with that. The Hare Krishna devotees all know Lord Chaitanya's teaching is that. Simultaneous. What's the relationship between all things and Krishna? There's a oneness and there's a difference of simultaneously. All things are emanations from Krishna, so there's a relationship of oneness. But he's the source, and he's not in contact with the material energy, although he's the source of it, so there's a difference. Oneness and difference. So here's the verses. This is a just review. Verse 56. Have to go back. Yeah. Those in this world, this is 10:14:56. Those in this world who understand Lord Krishna as he is, the Brijbasis don't. They see him as their best friend or their beloved son or their lover or the one they want to serve. They don't see him as he is. So those in this world who understand Lord Krishna as he is see all things, whether stationary or moving, stasnu or charishnu, stationary or moving, as manifestations of the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such enlightened persons recognize no reality apart from the Supreme Lord Krishna. Or say the same, this is Prabhupada's way of saying, there's two things in this world. There's Krishna and there's Krishnas. And there's not a third thing. So Krishna's is a manifestation of the form of Krishna. And then 57 says, the original unmanifested form of material nature. What's the unmanifested form of material nature? That's pradhan. You familiar with that term, pradhan? Yes? Yes? Okay, pradhan. Pradhan? Not sure. In the process of creation, this one you know. In the process of creation, there's cosmic annihilation and everything is within Krishna. Everything is within Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu? Mahavishnu? Not sure. Yes? Yes, Mahavishnu. Okay. All living entities are, the sum total of all living entities are within Mahavishnu. And over there at some distance there's a cloud of the material energy. Not doing anything, just hanging out like clouds do sometimes. And it's called pradhan. What's pradhan? Pradhan is the sum total of the material energy, but not differentiated into elements. Like here we have chairs and microphone stands and ceilings and furniture and stuff, floors, bodies. So all those are made of elements. But before there's elements, there's the unmanifest state. There's not divided up into different elements. It's just a big blob, big cloud of the sum total of material energy, or the unmanifested form of material nature. Pradhan. The original unmanifested form of material nature is the source of all material things, and the source of even that subtle material nature is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. What then could one ascertain to be separate from him? That's 57. So the phrase that's used in this verse, for those of you that know what pradhan is, now you can learn another word. Bhava artaha. Bhava artaha is translated as the original unmanifested causal phase of material nature, or pradhan. So there's material and there's a spiritual cause. The example that's given is a potter that uses a potter's wheel and clay and sometimes some tools to make a pot. So the clay is the material cause because it undergoes transformation. But the potter spins the wheel. Without the potter spinning the wheel, you can have clay, it's not going to become a pot. Yeah, so there's Sanskrit terms for this. Nimitta, or efficient cause, that's the potter. And then the clay is the material cause. So we just observed the appearance day of Advaitacharya, right? On Thursday? Appearance. So he's Mahavishnu, who's called Upadan Karana, the material cause, because he generates, in the causal phase of material creation, the ingredients. Mahavishnu glances and agitates pradhan and produces the elements. He's the material cause. And then Krishna is the remote cause, or the efficient cause, or nimitta karana. So that's a little technical. Let's go back. This verse 57 is saying that this pradhan, this totality, original unmanifested form of material nature, is the source of all material things, but the source of that subtle material nature is Krishna. So what can be separate from Krishna? When you have pots, you got to have a potter. To have a chair, you have to have a manufacturer. You have to have ingredients, but you have to have the manufacturer. And where does the manufacturer get his ability and the ingredients from? From Krishna. So what can exist separate from Krishna? Jiva Goswami's commentary. Actual existence, this phrase bhava artaha, actual existence of all things, material or spiritual, such as the material and efficient cause. There we go. Material cause, Mahavishnu. Efficient cause, Krishna. The Sanskrit phrase is bhavati. All things, material or spiritual, are situated within the shelter of all existence, Krishna, who is possessing all Shaktis, and he is the cause or shelter. Brahma realized this. Then Jiva Goswami makes reference to an earlier verse in Brahma's prayers, 10:14-18, which reads, this is after, so Brahma saw what he saw. Krishna showed this amazing thing. Today, apart from you, I saw the calves and cowherd boys and four-armed forms you manifested. All that I saw of the material realm and the beings worshipping you were nothing but your Maya. There's Krishna and there's Krishna's Maya, and Krishna manifests things through his potencies, Yogamaya or Mahamaya potencies. They're but his potencies. So the whole display that you showed, my understanding, Brahma is realizing, it's you. And this is just your potencies going here and then withdrawn by you. Poof, they're gone. Jiva Goswami's commentary continues. Please define what object is separate from him, since he is the cause of all things. Since he is the root of everything, and was the cause of the appearance of all the boys and calves, he was naturally also the shelter of the prema in all those forms. So there's a relationship. There's the object, there's the source of the object, and there's a relationship between them. And the Brijbasis have a relationship of prema. No, in simpler terms, it's servant. The energy serves the energetic. The part serves the whole. And in the case of the Brijbasis, it's prema. That dasya becomes prema. Fully matured service mood. Therefore, he would, even more so, Krishna would be the natural object of love for the people of Braja. Now that's addressing the question. Why did the mothers have more affection for Krishna than for their own sons? He's the object of affection because he's the root cause of everything. It's the philosophical response. No, the ladies, they weren't philosophers. The mothers weren't, Vedantists. But from their heart, from the prema within their heart towards Krishna, they felt that affection naturally, because he's the source of everything, including their sons and everything else. Question. How can the son of Yashoda particularly be called the soul of everyone if he is said to be the form of Bhagavan? Then there are many other forms besides the form of Krishna. Bhagavan means a category. And then there's Bhagavan, who's this form, that form, the other form. So what's special about the Krishna form? Answer. as was stated in the previous verse, that was 56. All the forms, because he showed forms of Narayan. All the forms, the fixed forms like the thousand-headed Vishnu, and the movable forms like the avatars, are within Krishna. He's the cause of everything, including the expansions, or the avatars, or the other forms of Bhagavan. He's avatari. He's the source of them all. Nothing exists, including the Bhagavan forms, without him. Here is another meaning. That verse 57, another correct reading of the meaning of the Sanskrit goes like this. Among all objects, the truthful goal, or bhava artha, is the conclusion. That goal is prema, whose cause is Bhagavan Krishna. What object can exist without him? Without the form of full prema, who is devoid of all bad qualities. There's no doshas in Krishna. He has only qualities, no doshas. As was previously shown, the shelter of natural prema is established. That's Krishna. Now we're moving on to Sanat Goswami's commentary, who starts, why is this? And what that's referring to is what's stated in verse 56. And what's stated in verse 6 is, enlightened persons recognize no reality apart from the Supreme Lord Krishna. Why is this? Answer, because he is present in everything as the supreme cause. Something like this. There are different types of architecture. I'm not so knowledgeable, but certain architects have a style, or certain painters have a style, or certain composers of music has a style, and you just see the architecture, and if you're a trained architect, that's architect so and so, or that's a Picasso painting, or that's a Mozart symphony, for people that are connoisseurs of art and music and architecture. And so for those that are understanding the source of all things, enlightened persons that recognize no reality apart from Krishna, he's the cause and he's present within everything. He's present within everything as Supersoul, but he's also present within everything as the origin of everything. You follow? Okay. Question. Why do you say that he is the soul of all beings? Is it because there's no difference between him and all beings, being the same form? That's the previous verse statement, and now this verse 57 begins to answer. For those who do not know, because 56 was those who know, but going back to earlier verses, those that do not know the truth about Krishna, everything is his form. For those who know the truth, however, he appears as different. Why? As the final cause, he is different from the effect. That is shown in the present verse. Cause and effect. Non-different, different. He is the cause of all things. He's not all things. As a result of proper knowledge, bhakti to the Lord's deity forms is the highest result. Krishna, in the deity form, sthasnu, that's non-moving. And in the devotee or moving forms like Shalagram, charishnu. Charishnu means that, so moving, non-moving. And the devotees are moving, and the deities not moving. But they're forms of Krishna in the sense that they're connected to Krishna. This is the location of the Lord. That is Krishna. For those who know things other than the Lord in this world are not substantial. But Krishna, being the form of Bhagavan, is substantial. Remember from the first verse, Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Prabhupada uses this terminology, substance and category. It's a philosophical concept. So here, there's a category, it's chair. But it's insubstantial. Meaning, after some time, it's not going to be a chair. Put a match to it and it's not a chair. It's not permanent. There's no substance. It's category, but there is substance. The substance, you can say, is the elements that make it up. And you can say the substance is the supreme, that's the origin of those elements. But the category chair is not substantial. You can sit in it for some time, it's useful. But it's not eternal substance, sat. That's what's going on here. Sankhya philosophy, to understand here's spirit, here's matter. That's what all those, from verse 51 till this verse 58, it's Sankhya philosophy in a very interesting way. And, we take shelter of substance. Devotees take shelter of substance. Those that are not devotees take shelter of category. The house, my children, my bank balance, my camera, my Wi-Fi that sometimes cooperates and sometimes doesn't cooperate. These are in the category. And then there's the substance. There's the person that uses it. And ultimately the owner. The ultimate owner is Krishna. That's substantial. Krishna, being the form of Bhagavan, is substantial. There's this other word, vastu. It's right in those first verses of the Bhagavatam. Vedam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam. Vastu, in really simple language, it means stuff. It can mean different things depending upon context, but it's, this is vastu. The column supporting the floor above us, that's vastu. Not substantial. For those who know things other than the Lord in this world are not substantial, but Krishna, being the form of Bhagavan, is substantial. He's the basis and support of those columns that are supporting the floor above. At some point, the columns supporting the floor above are not going to be there. The whole building's going to be something else. But Krishna's not going to be something else. That's substantial. The present verse then explains how the Lord is the highest object. The meaning is the same. Then Sanat Goswami gives two a little bit more esoteric meanings of this verse. Or, among all objects, prema is situated as the substantial object, or artha. It's the goal, that which is wanted, prema. By deliberation, prema is situated as the essence, since that is the goal for everyone. For that prema, the Lord, full of all powers, Krishna, is situated as the substantial object, since by prema, Krishna is achieved. Prema is the means and prema is the result. Like one of the things Prabhupada would say, what's the goal of chanting? It's more chanting. It's a means to reach Krishna. The means and the end are the same. The name and Krishna are the same. Prema is the goal, and prema is the means to reach the goal, Krishna. Or, Krishna, the son of Nanda, is situated as the substantial object, the Supreme Lord, for Narayana. Narayana, Krishna is the source of Narayana. The expansions of Krishna are in service to the source. Everything is in service to the source. By his manifestation of unlimited qualities, he is superior to Narayan. In this case, this alternative reading, Vastu means the supreme result. Krishna is the final result. Other than that, what is there? And again, final commentary, Jiva Goswami's Krama Sandarbha. Krama Sandarbha is a verse-by-verse commentary like Prabhupada's commentary. It's real existence of all this, that's this bhava artaha. Real existence of all of this, that's what he saw. And, the affection of the mothers towards Krishna and their sons. The real existence of all of this is the final cause. And what's the final cause? Krishna. That cause is the Lord endowed with all powers in the form of Krishna. Can anything be found without Krishna? That's his very simple paraphrasing of the verse. Then his commentary. Actual existence, bhava artha, of all things, material or spiritual, such as the material and efficient causes, the clay and the potter. And then there's the pot. So that's all these exist in spiritual and material, efficient or material causes. They're all situated within the shelter of all existence. Krishna, possessing all Shaktis, he is that cause or shelter. Brahma realized this, similar as before. Since he is the root of everything, and was the cause of the appearance of all the boys and calves, he was naturally also the shelter of prema for those forms. He would be the object of love for all the people of Braja, even more so. Though he is the giver of prema by his nature, Krishna gave Aghasura, and other demons, filled with sin, the highest goal of liberation, awarding to others, by their knowledge of his sweetness qualities, which surpass liberation, he awarded the highest result to those who take shelter of his lotus feet. That's the mothers. They were beyond liberated. They're beyond liberated. Agha and the other demons, they got liberated. And these mothers, they're beyond liberation. They're just absorbed in affection, loving affection for that which is the source of prema, and the prema within them is towards the source of prema. It's perfectly natural, that's what he's saying. Then comes this celebrated verse, Samashata ye pada pallavam plavam Notice the alliteration. It's very poetic. Mahatpadam punya shomarare, bhavam bodhir vatsapadam param padam, padam padam yadvi padam nate sham. Even sounds nice. Translation. We heard it already. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world, is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal, that's those who have shelter of his lotus feet, is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. And the BBT purport, this is not Prabhupada, this is his followers. This translation is taken from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 51, 251, quotes this verse. According to Srila Siddhar Swami, this verse summarizes the knowledge presented in this entire section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna's lotus feet are described as Palava, or flower buds, because they're most tender and of a pinkish hue. Again, according to Srila Sanat Goswami, the word Palava also indicates that Lord Krishna's lotus feet are just like desire trees, which can fulfill all the desires of the Lord's pure devotees. Even exalted devotees like Sri Narada, who are themselves the great shelter for the conditioned souls of this universe, personally take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Thus it is natural that when Lord Krishna manifested himself as all the young boys and calves of Vrindavan, their parents were more attracted to them than previously. Lord Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure, and, being all attractive, the ultimate object of everyone's love. And there's a short, medium purport, Jiva Goswami. I'll read that and we're done. Though Krishna is the giver of prema by his nature, still Krishna gave Aga and other demons filled with sin the highest goal of liberation, awarding to others by their knowledge of his sweetness qualities, which award liberation. He awards the highest result to those who take shelter of his lotus feet, such as Brahma, because of their intense prema. Because of the bliss in surrendering to his feet, it is impossible to inquire about liberation in the past, present, or future, meaning you're beyond it already. This verse summarizes the whole topic. Paragraph. The Lord, the killer of Mura, who was the commander-in-chief of Narakasura, is famous because of his purity, as Krishna is famous, or its cause, beauty. Interesting. What's the cause of purity is Krishna's purity is Krishna's beauty, his form. His form is beautiful, and purity rests upon his form. He has qualities praised by people like me. He gave liberation to many, like Aga and Naraka. Paragraph. Krishna's feet are like tender shoots giving happiness by their qualities such as tenderness. Those feet are ultimate, but without knowing how they give pleasure, they are known as a method of crossing samsara only. The tender feet indicate the cruelty of the demons in trying to kill him. Poetic. The shoots are like herbs with great powers. For those who have surrendered to those feet, the ocean of samsara becomes the water in a calf's footprint, because of the happiness that appears from the nature of those feet. The people do not even realize if they have crossed or not. This means that this is not their goal. Then final sentence. According to their type of prema, they attain the abode of the Lord. The place is not this world, Vipadam, since it is the place of the eternal associates, Mahatpadam. Now, this is three things. Our acharyas are enjoying. And their, listeners to our acharyas can also enjoy if we're rasika. It's the one consideration is the information content that they're passing on, but another is the rasa content they're passing on. They're just they're making rasamalai. They're taking milk and putting it on the stove and stirring it and adding some camphor and adding some cardamom and the fragrance is very nice. Maybe some saffron sprinkles, and so they're churning the topics, and they're relishing, and they want to relish with us. There's the information part. What are they saying? But as one becomes purified, there's a fragrance and a sweetness and a special appreciation through their association of the topics. So similarly, the second point I want to make in summary is going back to the same chapter 14, text number 3. It's really an important verse. And it's not the end of the Bhagavatam, but it's a really important verse for the lives of devotees. It's the verse that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted when he had his talks with Ramananda Roy, saying that, yes, this is the goal of life and the means to achieve it. And the means to achieve it, leaving aside speculation and dedicating Tanavan Manobhir, body, mind, and words, to the topics of Krishna, Bhavadiya Vartan, from qualified sources. Stay in your position, be a student, be a householder, be a sannyasi, be whatever you want to, whatever your nature is, you stay there. And dedicate yourself to these topics. And that's the means and that's the goal. The goal of chanting is more chanting. Because when that's done, this is the third point, there's a sweetness. Now, sadhakas generally don't experience a sweetness. They experience something. And it's one of the common questions. When will I get beyond mechanical chanting? There's different ways of saying it. But that's what comes after that verse. The flow of bhakti is, okay, there's sadhana, and then the means and the goal of sadhana is Krishna's lotus feet. Now, what if I'm not experiencing the sweetness yet? That's what Ramananda, Lord Chaitanya says, very good, now go further. And the further is intense eagerness, or lolyam, or greed. So if you want to go beyond mechanical chanting, you have to be a little greedy. In a spiritual sense, not material sense. An eagerness that not just, the yearning for the goal, the sweetness of Krishna's, The sweetness of Krishna's feet will be experienced when one is very enthusiastic to be in that dasya space, and whatever the eternal relationship is. I want to be fully dedicated, and it starts with, for us, for the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it starts with the name. And chanting separates the men from the boys. Because kirtan is one thing, and japa is another thing. I mean, young people know kirtan is great. Japa. And then, so what's with the kirtan? It's just the holy name. So it's the music, and it's a social experience, and it's just music is magic. But the essence is the name. The essence is the name. It's not the musicality of singing and performing musical instruments and becoming proficient, and it sounds nice. I mean, that's we like to offer that to Krishna, but it's the offering yourself to Krishna. And when that mood is there with some enthusiasm or eagerness or greediness, intense eagerness, that's where the sweetness comes. And the residents of Vrindavan, they have that sweetness. In fact, they're just swimming in that sweetness. So much so they don't even know where they are. Meaning, Krishna's God, or So what about us? So to move from the regulative stage of bhakti to a more mature stage of bhakti, there has to be some eagerness. Not in the fruitive sense, but in the devotional sense. Big difference. Night and day difference. Not like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a pure devotee. Doesn't happen. Another kind of eagerness that's calling for mercy. Eagerness devoid of the sense of doership, but filled with the sense of devotion and taking shelter of the lotus feet of Murari. What does that mean, taking shelter? You're in a service, and you're dependent upon the boat to cross you over the ocean of material existence. And what happens? The ocean shrinks, and you don't even notice it. That's right in the commentary. We're going to hear some more as we go further. When you're chanting with absorption, maybe you've had some experience. Probably we've all had some experience. When you're chanting with absorption, you don't notice time passing or it's a special experience. And so that's what this little section is summarizing from. Okay. Bhagavatam is taking us by the hand or by the heart and leading us to higher stages of bhakti if we hear it properly. I mean, the potency is there. So it's the hearing it properly. We'll be carried through that sound vibration. By the dedication to those messages, we're carried to that place. That's the place of the Brijbasis, that place of prema. The potency is there to do that. And when that eagerness and submission in service to the Supreme Lord and eagerness for the mercy of the Supreme Lord are put together, that combination, that message is throughout the Bhagavatam. It's our life as devotees. There's effort and there's mercy. Devotional effort and mercy. Mother Jasoda trying to bind Krishna. There's effort. Krishna didn't want to be bound, so she couldn't bind him. But she persisted. She persisted. She was perspiring. Flowers were falling from her hair. Krishna took compassion and let her bind him. That's the prema of Mother Jasoda, and that's the message of the Bhagavatam for us. That's what's being said here in these verses, just breaking it down in a different way. Why? Krishna is the object. There's nothing that exists separate from him. And when you're absorbed in Krishna Bhakti, you don't see things separate. Everything is an opportunity for service to Krishna. Even, the cold weather of Detroit in the winter. And whatever. Opportunity for service. Okay. So it's 7:30. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful ending. It was really inspiring. Actually, my question is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, I think verse 52. So we were recently discussing that verse. My question is in that verse, in the purport, Prabhupada is saying how Madhavendra Puri is praying to the demigods and the forefathers that I'm sorry, I cannot worship you. My mind is so absorbed in Krishna, so please forgive me. And then Prabhupada says but this is for the pure devotees. And for the neophyte devotees, they're still supposed to follow the rituals and everything. So now my question is, how do we know which stage we are, which level we are now, after coming to Krishna conscious, we still do the rituals, or we are beyond that stage now, we don't have to follow those rituals and shraddhas, whatever.
According to Hari Bhakti Vilas, the answer to your question is, it depends on faith. And to have guidance on should I do this ritual or that ritual, you need guidance from a spiritual master. This is Hari Bhakti Vilas. Now, our spiritual masters would be 24/7, no sleep, answering emails and phone calls and conversations, if everything had to be decided by the spiritual master. So it's not quite like that. But at least in principle, guidance is needed. And then the application point is per faith. I'll give one practical example. I had this discussion with Gaur Govinda Maharaj when he was still around. There's a family, nice family. They weren't initiated couple. The husband died. And there was a question from the wife. Should I not come before the deities in the temple for the number of days, according to our caste, that I shouldn't come to the temple? Or should I come to the temple and offer prayers on behalf of my husband to the deity? So I wanted to get a more clear scriptural answer, because there are things I was aware that says different things about that question, which is your question, rituals. So his answer was, same answer, it's dependent upon faith. The person someone is brought up with a certain tradition that says such and such. So you follow that. Because now they're submitting to the authority that is part of their tradition, whether it's scriptural or family. Like Krishna asks his father about this yajna. Is it a family tradition, which doesn't mean it's 0, or is it scriptural? Because then it's a 10, is to be followed. And his father gave his answer. So scriptural things are to be followed. Then, now what about for you and me and people that don't know, am I to follow or not follow? Because it's there within scripture, it's there within family tradition. So we should know, you and I should know, that bhakti is automatically on the liberated platform. So to what degree do we have faith in the bhakti process? And to that degree, the rituals may not be required. Then comes family members. There's a verse in Canto 7, Chapter 14, I forget the verse number, 16 or something like that. We don't disturb family members. Supposing some family members are expecting X. Well, as long as it's not transgressing a principle, like, I want you to eat onions and garlic, okay? And we smile and say, no. But if they say, we want you to do this ritual, that ritual, as long as it's not in violation, you can, so depending upon faith and depending upon the relationship, and you can do or not do. But bhakti doesn't require doing, in principle. Then comes faith. And depending, the faith barometer can say, I've taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, that's just fine. And everything is included. The $1 million, the $10, $100, they're already there. So that's bhakti. And according to faith, we don't need to do the other things. We don't like, nectar devotion, worshipping Ganesh. We don't worship Ganesh. But it's one of the items of bhakti. So how come we don't worship Ganesh? Right? You're familiar? There's 64 items in nectar devotion. One of them is worshipping Ganesh for removal of obstacles. So, but we don't do that. Why not? Prabhupada's answer. Because if you worship Ganesh, you will likely have material desire, and he'll help you fulfill your material desire, and you'll become more entangled, so we don't worship Ganesh. Instead, we worship Lord Nrsimhadev, because he removes obstacles from the spiritual path. So we just apply ourselves according to the faith that our founder Acharya has given us. It doesn't mean if there's Vaishnavas that worship Ganesh in the right way, there's something wrong in that. But most do not. It's, the other removal of obstacles to get material facilities through Karmakanda ritual. And it just, you leave the Karmakanda ritual out, you leave Ganesh. And it's, that's an obstacle for bhakti. So there's some detail in the principle that upon which the details are resting. It depends on faith. And if we're going to do rituals, then we try to Krishnaize those rituals as far as possible. Yeah. You have something back there?
Oh, no.
No, okay. Up front here.
You have any question?
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Uh, so regarding Pradhan, the one you were
Yes,
started.
yes, yes.
So unmanifested form. So are we the manifested form of the Lord? And
Wait.
are our
Let's get
So,
the terminology.
like a
Wait.
like are we
Wait. Let's get our terminology straight. Before we go to who are we, Pradhan is not just an unmanifested form. It's an undifferentiated totality, unmanifested. So, in the process of creation, there's a cloud. Mahavishnu glances at the cloud, and by his glance, the living entities in time come, and it agitates the cloud, and it starts to differentiate into elements. And that's called Mahatattva, when they're differentiated out. So, no, you want to know, are we the undifferentiated or the differentiated? We're,
correct? Yeah. So are we one of the elements that the God created?
we're spirit soul.
Spirit soul.
We're spirit soul. You know, if you be specific, if you are our bodies part of that which is created by God? Yes. There's elements, and they're in some configuration called whatever you want to call it. Here, a chair and a microphone stand and a body, a human body. And, you know, tree and snowflakes and, you know, those are material forms that are parts of Krishna's energy, made up of elements.
So my question was, like, are our activities results of our activities based on karma, but our activities will accumulate towards karma for the next? Is that how it goes?
Not exactly. There's instant karma and there's delayed karma. So it can be either or combination. Karma in principle means action reaction. It's both. So I'm forever acting because the soul is active. So I'm generating karma. And it can be immediate fructification of that karma, or it can be delayed.
Thank you, Maharaj. So if the body is created by the Lord, and so actions of this body,
Yeah.
so those actions, are they based of karma, or are
They're-
they based of the Lord, or it is completely
It's based on free
individual?
will. Now, some actions are simply because, like eating, because we have a body and it needs some sustenance. So we eat because it requires some sustenance, but we're making choices of what we eat. So it can become good karma, bad karma, or akarma, karma-free. It's a free will choice. So the eating itself is not really, you don't have a choice about it. But what you eat, that's a choice, that's an action, that's karma.
Got it, Maharaj. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. Maharaj, going back to the previous point of rituals.
Rituals.
So Madhavendra Puri is describing, I pay obeisances to the bathing, I cannot do that, I am too absorbed in my devotion, I cannot do my Sandhya, Gayatri, I cannot do worship of demigods or all these Pitra Shraddha or something. Now, the another point comes, what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in 3rd chapter also, as a superior person performs, the other follow.
Yep.
So now relating with that point, now looking at somebody who may be very advanced in bhakti and he has given up everything, he doesn't have to bother about taking bath or doing Sandhya Gayatri and following those rules. But now looking at that example, if others start thinking, oh, my guru is not doing, so maybe I don't need to take bath, I can also eat without taking bath. So to set an example for others, the superior personality still perform certain those activities so the other can set as
Exactly.
example. So how do we understand, like at that point where we draw a line? Okay, I don't maybe have to do thing if I have advanced to that stage, but to just set an example for others, I still have to continue with that.
Well, the question you're asking can be addressed in a different context, and that is those who have reached the stage of spontaneous service because they're so well connected to the personality of Godhead, they still perform the externals, and for the reason you mentioned. But, they don't have to, but they do. They don't have to. And if they don't, there's no fault because they have this higher connection. But generally speaking, they do. But if they don't, there's not a dosha or a fault on their part. So they do to set example. Like we find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did things because, he was just doing things. So there's, for those of us that aren't on such a level, supposing someone is entering into a spontaneous stage of bhakti, they'll do because they're so accustomed to do. They're not thinking, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to do that because I'm on this higher platform now. They do. If they don't do, then it's because there's an ecstasy that's overwhelming them, and therefore they're not at fault for not doing. But otherwise they do. It's just part of the regulation that got them to that elevated position. They do. And, the prayer of Madhavendra Puri that you're referring to, it's not that he didn't do those things necessarily. He's explaining, I'm so much absorbed. So he may be so much absorbed he doesn't do, or he may be doing, and just like, in an external fashion, doing or not doing. But the obligation to the pitris and this ones and that ones, it's fulfilled already. So no need.
Further with the rituals, like as you mentioned, worshipping Ganesh, or to that matter, worshipping Shiva.
Yes, for
So
that matter.
we don't do that. But if somebody has a very strong feeling, strong desire that, why I cannot worship Ganesh? Why cannot I pray to Ganesh? Why cannot I pray to Lord Shiva? Why
the
cannot
answer
I
to
keep
that
them?
is, if you this is Prabhupada. Bahulashva, one of Prabhupada's disciples in San Francisco. It's nice. I've listened to it many times. Prabhupada, there's this nice man. He understands. He reads your books. He wants to become your disciple, but he has some affinity for Lord Shiva. Can he still be initiated? Prabhupada's answer. Prabhupada's answer. Does he understand Krishna position? Because it was already said. He understands. Yes, he understands. Yes, he can be initiated. And his affinity for Lord Shiva, he can have Lord Shiva on a separate altar and worship. He makes his offering to Krishna, and the prasad of Krishna can be given to Lord Shiva on a separate altar. It's like it's what's done in Jagannath Puri. So if he understands the position. So here's another, just this morning I spent time on this topic. I was curious, when Radharani worships the sun god, what's her understanding? Is she worshipping the sun god? Is she worshipping Surya Narayan? Or is she worshipping because each of these devatas, they have their spiritual counterpart in the Vaikuntha realm, of which the devatas are, representatives of, but not the original. So what's she doing? And at least one answer is they worship only for the pleasure of Krishna. Like the pastime, I was thinking about it just this morning, where the pastime where Nanda Maharaj is being swallowed by a serpent. So they went to a distant place where there was a temple of Lord Shiva on Shivaratri, and they went for a 3-day Shivaratri festival. And these are Brijbasis. And Nanda Maharaj, his Ishtadev is Narayan. So what's going on? Worshipping Lord Shiva. Or, it came in the Govardhan Leela, worshipping of Gauri in Gauri Kund. So, what's the for Brijbasis? That's like the gold standard, and they worship because they're followers of the Vedic culture, but they're doing those things only for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, back to your question, what should we do, and how should we understand whether we should do or not do? Well, if you're on the standard of Madhavendra Puri, you don't need to do, and you may do or not do, but you don't need to do. You're on the platform of the Brijbasis, you do. But it's only one thing. There's nothing else. They have no material desire. They're not worshipping Katyayani for some material desire. They're not worshipping Shiva or anyone. So that's on another there's a whole other set of rules.
So if somebody is worshipping any Devi Devata, let's say Ganesh or Shiva, with the clear understanding that they are also devotee of Krishna, and I am worshipping them or serving them with that mode, that as a servant of Krishna.
No. My understanding to that question is no. I mean, largely because the vestiges of material desire and material conception is very strong. Unless you're on this most elevated position like the Brijbasis, it's material desire and material expectation, the entanglement, karmic entanglement of material desire and propitiating devas to fulfill material desire. So the understanding, the notional understanding is different than, faith and desire platform. So we don't do. But now back to what Prabhupada said about this man in San Francisco. Separate altar, like is done in Jagannath Puri. I mean, he didn't say that, but that's my understanding. At Jagannath is worshipped, and the prasad of Jagannath is given. It's the same as Shraddha. Vishnu prasad is given to the forefather. It's worship of Vishnu. Worship of Vishnu. So it's not okay to say, well, they understand that they read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and they understand Krishna is the source, but they're like really attached to worshipping Devi or this Deva. Is it okay? This other method, they worship Krishna, Bhaj is exclusive for Krishna, and the remnants of Krishna Prasad go to others. You give to an ant. Why not give to?
Right. So that is exactly my point. Is because we say, okay, even feed the cow or feed the ant. So why not?
We're feeding the deer in our backyard.
Right.
There's five of them, and they're really hungry. And as scared as they are of people, they're really hungry. So we feed. So we're not worshiping Ganesh or Lord Shiva or the deer or the cows. We're offering prasad.
But we are offering respect to everybody.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So, to that point, there is just one more point. In Adi Puran, there is one more verse which is quoted many times, where Krishna says,
I know the verse.
Ye me bhakta jana parta nate mad bhaktas mad bhakta nam chahiye bhaktas te me bhaktat mahamata. If somebody says I am your devotee, he is not my devotee. But if somebody is devotee of my devotee, then I consider him as a dear devotee. So like in that way, we say Vishnu, Shiva is a Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho, he is a great devotee of Lord.
The problem is the conception is one thing, and the material desire and attachment to a material form of ritual is hard to overcome. Therefore, like Lord Chaitanya, he went to the Shiva temples as much as he went to Vishnu temples, and he would dance and dance and dance. Anyway, Bhubaneswar.
Right. He composed Rudrashtakam also.
Yeah. There's this, it depends if you're Madhavananda from Bhubaneswar. Now he lives in Puri. Inside the Shilas, the Shivalinga is a Shalagram Shila. The worship is actually to Lord Narayan in his Shalagram Shila form. So, to zero in on that, it takes some purification. So so it's same as the phrase, we offer respect, but worship is something else. Worship is exclusive to the Vishnu Tattva forms of the Lord. That's where our service and our worship goes. Because otherwise the tendency is something antavatu palam teshan. How are we doing? Anything online?
There is one question on Zoom.
We have one question on Zoom. Okay.
So question is on the ritual part. So he says the question is Hare Krishna Maharaj Dandvat Pranam.
Look what you started.
How to understand rituals for curing disease versus taking medical treatment for the disease. So how we contrast those. So his reference is basically some of the rituals are done for some curement. Like somebody has a psychological problem or something. For there, some rituals are there. So people go for those rituals for those kind of treatment. And in medical field also, when we have some bodily problem, we go for treatment to the doctor. So how is it that part different of doing a ritual? Why that cannot be followed in that case?
As followers of Srila Prabhupada, we know two things. That qualified brahmanas, where do you find them? Rituals require qualified brahmanas. Good luck finding a qualified brahmana. Need I say more? So that's not something that he encouraged. As followers of Prabhupada, it's not something he encouraged to do rituals for achieving something temporary. Krishna doesn't encourage it in Bhagavad Gita. It may exist, but it's if you water the root of the tree, then all that. So we do that. That's what we do when it comes to Vedic rituals. When it comes to medicine, find a qualified doctor. Now, it's not. There are such things as qualified doctors, but they're hard to find, frankly. And what do you do when you have an ailment? A ritual, or try to find a qualified doctor. And so there's different systems of medicine, there's different degrees of qualification in Western medicine, or in Ayurvedic medicine, or in homeopathic medicine, or other herbal medicines. So try to find a good doctor. That's something that Prabhupada encouraged us to do. And there's a verse that says, again, faith has a big effect on healing when it comes to teachers and teachings or doctors. There's 3 other categories. So faith is a big part. But faith, supposing you don't have a qualified Brahmin, you have faith in rituals, but it's not a qualified Brahmin. It's not going to have fruit. So the difference is, within the Vedic system, there's Ayurveda, there's system of medicine, and our founder Acharya encouraged us to take good care of our health, do the preventative side first and foremost, and when there's some need, like a COVID vaccination.
Right.
So there are some persons that are advocating a more natural, as opposed to this inoculation method or vaccination method. So one has to make a choice, but it's very different than a ritual that says get rid of, Okay?
His logic basically is
I get the logic.
right.
You're going outside, so what's the difference? You're going outside this one, you're going outside to that one, what's the difference?
Right. So he is saying basically when we have any bodily problem, we don't say, "Oh, let Krishna take care of everything. I don't want to do anything. I don't need to go to doctor." So
I understood the logic. I understood the logic. And I think I responded. And if he doesn't like it, he can ask you some more.
Okay. Any other questions from Facebook? No. Anybody from here?
Aha! Anything online? Yes? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Sanat Pranam. I had a question.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You what?
Yes, Mataji.
Speak.
Okay, sorry. So I had a question. I was just talking to some people, and like even kids in school, they learned that when the eggs, the chick comes from the egg, all the eggs are not fertilized. So then someone had mentioned that if they're not fertilized, then in terms of eating, what's wrong in eating the unfertilized eggs?
Okay.
So can you just give me a response of how to...
I understand the question. I've heard the question many times before. I got the question. And I'll repeat to you what one Mataji answered when asked that question. You ready? It's going to be shocking. Human women also have a menstrual period. Are you going to offer that to Krishna? The unfertilized egg, what is it? It's a menstrual cycle. You going to offer that to Krishna? Maybe it has protein. You can offer it to Krishna? How's that for an answer? Pretty gross, huh? It's not something that's in the category of what is Krishna is asking for or what is offerable. But it's a gross way of saying it's not offerable, because that's what an unfertilized egg is. So we don't eat eggs.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Sorry.
Thank you for the nice lecture, Prabhu, Maharaj. And pardon me if I don't make sense, I'll try my best. So it's neither a question nor a statement, but growing up, for me, like we celebrated all festivals that included, that are related to the demigods.
Fine.
So, so it's very hard for me to comprehend in my head, let's, like, when we talk about Ganesha, Lord Shiva, like these are the prominent festivals. I didn't grow up thinking of praying for a material reason. It is my belief that I was brought up in the way that these are auspicious days, and we are offering. So I always believed all of them are one. There is one God in all of them, and we are worshipping them in different names for during different auspicious days. So I don't know. So that's why I said, pardon me if I don't make sense, but it's hard for me to comprehend that Krishna is the superior. I kind of get it, but again, it's confusing sometimes. So I kind of see him. It's they're all the same. There's one God. So
Well, that's Hinduism. That's, Hinduism 101. And it's not uncommon, and it's not like, you missed the boat, or there's something wrong with you, or something like that. It's just when you step back from the way that you grew up, seeing the way that you described how you grew up, and then now you're not a little girl, you're an adult, and you're reading the literature that explains these rituals. You can graduate from what you grew up with to here's another picture. It's not that there's one God, in the sense that all the demigods are different manifestations of the one God. They're in one sense, but they're not the supreme God. They're not the object of worship. Now, is there a place for what you grew up with to come to a more mature stage? Absolutely. That's why it's there, to help people that don't know the cause of all causes, but they're accepting higher authority and they're following some procedures because commonly people like rituals, and that it helps them build their faith in connecting with the source of everything. But there is a source of everything. And when you repose to fulfill the mission of human life, it goes beyond giving respect to different demigods or worshipping different demigods because there's something religious about worship that you just know is right. There's a higher understanding. There is a cause of them. There's a cause of all causes. And we want to offer our loving service, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam, to that which is the cause and source of everything. So what is that? And the Vedas are searching for that. And then it's revealed. So when you get that, okay, I just pour water on the root of the tree. And it's not like I'm being snobby or offensive or neglecting.
no.
So when the understanding is right, the root of the tree is where you put the water. Then it's all fulfilled. And that has to do with her question. At what stage? So it has to do with faith. Okay, let's do our online computer question. Do we have the microphone? Are you following everything?
Yes.
Yeah? Good for you.
Question from Girivaradari Das. We are learning about attachment and detachment in Uddhava Gita.
Yes.
How can we assess our depth of detachment to family, material, or things around?
Put your hand in your bead bag. Start chanting and see where your mind goes.
Amara Mataji asks.
Here's another one. Supposing some tribulation comes, where does your mind go?
Amara Mataji asks, if one has desire to please Krishna but fails to feel taste and retain attention, is he operating on mechanical platform?
Well, less than fully devotional for sure. And, it's not mechanical, but, mechanical can mean also devotional. And there's more mechanical and less devotional, or less mechanical and more devotional. It's not just a bucket. And even in the course of chanting your 16 rounds, there can be fluctuations of mechanical devotional. That's called unsteady bhakti. So we want to leverage things in the direction of devotional. That's it. Anything from you? No. Okay. Prabhupada ki? One more.
So Maharaj, generally we say recommendation for keeping deities at home. We mostly recommend Gauranitai deities to keep at home. Somebody said, I don't feel that bhav, what I feel towards Radha Krishna or Sitaram, towards Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But having to have the deities of Gauranitai at home rather than Radha Krishna or Sitaram, so how do I deal with that? Because my bhav is more towards Sitaram or Radha Krishna. Is it okay to keep those deities rather than going towards the conventional Gauranitai deities?
Yes. It's a matter of faith. And, followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recognize Mahavadanyaya. But one may not have that feeling. I know a family where the husband has this very fantastic Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman deity. Their son has a Nrsimha deity, and the wife has a Gauranitai deity. They're really big deities. And they're very elaborate worship. But, it's according to their faith. And they're not, my worship is better than your worship. It's not like that. It's suited to their mode of devotion.
Sometimes we get into cookie cutter approach. No, you should get Gauranitai only. That is.
Well, I don't know who says that. Maybe it happens here, but I haven't even heard it. And something that Prabhupada gave the option was also Jagannath deities, Jagannath or Gauranitai, because they're very merciful. And that's okay. They're very merciful. And I have an affinity for this or that. Okay. Prabhupada ki jai.